Let me get you to sign this before I forget that you're okay with me interviewing you. And what was your maiden name?
What?
I knew that. How long have you lived in this house?
I was born in this house.
Okay, I was thinking maybe you were born next door. You were born in
No,
this house?
I was born in 26. Now, my oldest brother was born in that house, the two-story house.
Oh, okay.
That was in 11.
Okay.
And then my other brother was born in 13, and he was born in this house because the house was built in 12.
All right.
And then I didn't come along until 26.
Okay. So you just have the two brothers and you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they're
Both
they're
dead.
not still alive.
My grandfather built that house, and my daddy built this house.
What year did your grandfather build? Do you know?
1895. He married a Smithwick. My grandmother was Indiana Isabella Pocahontas Smithwick, and she married a white. Okay, she was from up in the Orange community, and he taught school up there. There was an academy up there called Orange Academy.
Yeah.
Okay, he taught school up there, and he did a lot of farming, and then he also had a cotton gin up there at Orange. Yeah. He was on when he died in 1909, he was on the city council. And hit the property until my uncle and aunt died was from this road down to Harmon Field.
Yeah.
And there's still a house standing out there at the end of Harmon Field. End of this property, right above Harmon Field, that his son Walter White was tax collector. And he died around in the early 30s. But that house is still standing. And I don't know, it was built around 40. Most of these houses over in here are around 100 years old.
No. Now what about the ones across the street?
Okay, the Canets built that house around 1900, and it was used for community singings. People, if they came and it was after dark and they couldn't get back home, there was provisions and all over there for them to stay. Because of course they were coming in, their buggies. But anyway, they had community singings. I don't know, I understood about once a month or something like that over there. But around 1901, it was sold to George W. Sandow.
Yeah.
And he owned the Sandow Gold Mine, which is up there toward where Franklin Gold Mine is. Now that gold mine is listed on the map that the Cherokee Historical Society has. Now his daughter, Pearl, I don't know if you're interested in the Braves or not, but she's still the number one Braves fan. And she was born there in 1902.
She's still alive?
No, she died in 6, but nobody yet has broken her record.
Okay.
Now grandmother's daddy was, which would be my great-grandfather, was Tyre Smithwick, and he married a Martha Latham. And they started Orange Methodist Church. Well, in fact, on Mama's side, her great-grandfather, John Prescott Brooke, was one of the founders of Canton, along with William Gresham and Joe. Well, it's left me. What was his name? I'll think about it in a minute. Or 3 of them, yeah, that founded Canton about 1831, yeah. Donaldson.
Yeah,
Joe Donaldson, yeah. Now, grandmother and granddaddy, Thomas Wright in Indiana, they were real active in the church, in the Methodist church that was torn down to build the one that's still standing in Canton, in town.
Right. So they're buried over there?
Yeah, we've got a white plot over there, yeah. Now, Daddy was buried there. He died in 62, but I don't know, when Mama died, before she died, she said, I want your daddy moved.
Yeah.
And so I did. When she died, I had Daddy moved
So where are they?
Cherokee Memorial.
Well, tell me something about Sunnyside. Why is it called Sunnyside?
You know, I never, somebody just gave it a name. I never did ask. I never did know. Okay. I'll tell you a story about this little house in a minute, the one that's next to me. Well, now the one beyond there that's facing Marietta Road, and it was the Fincher house, the Olin Fincher house.
Okay.
R.O. And as you know, he was president of the Eddywall Bank.
Mm-hmm.
And that house was built around 1914.
Okay.
Okay, and then the house directly across the street is what I always called the Canton house, but a Galt built it.
Right.
And it was built around, I thought 1842, but I've also heard 1846.
Okay.
Yeah. And Joseph Brown, the Civil War governor, owned it at one time.
Okay.
And then the house, the brick house that's been made into apartments right next door to it, Rural Pool owned that. That's where they lived.
Yeah,
and
I
the
remember
Pool had
that.
the furniture store there on Main Street, about down there where the hoagie shop is, in that area.
I remember that.
Okay, that's where the Pools lived. And then next door to that was where the A.A. Finchers lived, and he founded the Canton Telephone Company. He and Mr. R.O. were brothers.
Mm-hmm. What year was that house built? Do you know?
I don't know. I never did find out, but I mean, it's been there about as long as any of these. And Guy Curtis lived up there. He was fire chief for a long time, and Clarence, the Hewies lived there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Prices, Wade Price, Dot Anderson's family.
Oh yeah.
They lived up there. And then there was a Mr. Henry Johnson. He lived up there. He had a house up there about where Prentice Haynes built there, and that house was torn down. But he had a cider mill, and so we'd go up there and get cider. And then the Howards had a grocery store, and somebody's living in that. And the Tal Smiths, Ray and D.T. and them lived up there. You know, he was coach over here for.
Oh, okay.
And Ray, you remember Ray and Jean that was our church. Yeah, okay. And then Billy Smith, he died, and he was married to, she was Dot Barr. Her stepdaddy was Peter Manning. They came here, he was a pastor here. Now, Carolyn Perry, the Ledfords built that house, and then her granddaddy, Jeff Groves.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, you know, Cardinal Street used to go all the way down to Highway 5. Well, Mr. Groves built a little park down there. It was on the left before you would get up to Highway 5. And I remember, back then, there wasn't any cars, and I could walk down there. And I remember he had little pottery frogs sitting around and water running out of their mouth. Excuse me just a minute, let me... But I don't, and then it's just grown up now. It was just a little bitty part that he.
And wasn't there a little bitty store right above?
Yeah, the Frank Dunn store, I believe.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And of course the fairgrounds have been down there a long time. But I remember when two little branches, the water branches, ran through the fairground down there. And then the Canton Ice Company, Daddy owned it, was over there, right down a little bit below the bridge. And he had the Canton Ice from about 1914 to the early 40s, when refrigeration and all started coming in.
The only ice I remember was up there behind the Dairy Queen.
And that building had stayed there, and I was over at Matt Farland's one day, and I saw a big fire.
Yeah?
And I went over there, and Hall Fowler from Woodstock was burning it.
Oh.
And I asked Hall, I said, do you have any idea what you're burning? He says, no. And I told him, no, I can't. Nice company. He says, I had no idea. Oh. Daddy had an employee, Peyton Randolph, that worked down there. And Marie told me that she and a lot of the girls, they'd go down there and ride back in their car. just to see him. They were
Just to look.
they were struck on him.
Do you have pictures of it?
No, I do not have it. But I have one of Daddy and Peyton standing on the outside of it. But I don't have the building. I mean, I don't know, back then, you just didn't think about pictures.
No.
Mr. Hasty wrote an article about it one day. It's in the Tribune, and later I saw him and I thanked him for it. And he says, Lord, I had no idea that was your daddy. Well, I was going to tell you this story.
Oh, okay.
And I reckon it's been long enough to talk about it. Okay, that used to be a cornfield.
Behind you?
Behind me. You know where that building is? Inside that wall.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a cornfield owned by Mr. Fincher.
Okay.
Okay, the mayor at that time understood that Go Kiss wanted to come to Canton.
Yeah.
And he got a businessman, Roy Smith, to approach Mr. Fincher. Now, Roy's wife told me about this, so I feel like it's true.
Okay.
And so they bought the property from Mr. Fincher, unbeknown to the Fincher family. And when R.O. Jr. found out about it, you know, he owned the Western Auto.
Right.
He approached them and tried to buy it back at a profit, and they wouldn't sell it. So that was, Gold Kiss built that out there, and they handled the eggs, is what it was. And of course, it's been an eyesore since, but it's part of that grandfather clause, and you can't do a thing about it. You know, as far as coding.
Because it's commercial.
Mm-hmm. And this little house, now this property there was going to be the entrance or the exit
right next door.
to it. Yeah, next door. We didn't know a thing about it going on. And they decided then to make the exit and the entrance down there on Marietta Road. And Bill Bricker bought that property and built that house. And I mean, that house was going up practically before we even knew anything about it. So that house has been there, that little house, since about 55.
Now, who built the wall? When did it get built?
I guess 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
The one that still owns it, I reckon, Salvador Gonzalez. He was the pastor, and he's the one that had bought this house and let it go down.
Right.
And then he sold it back to they had to sell it back to the person that he bought it from. I thought maybe they'd gone through a bank, but this Italian had bought it and sold it to Gonzalez, and Gonzalez was paying him, and he reneged and quit paying, so the Italian took it back over. And so, evidently, he's the one that has sold it to Latimer.
Okay. So all three of those houses now belong to Latimer.
I don't know about the one down here on the corner.
Oh, okay.
It was for sale about a month ago, and then the for sale sign's gone. But I know one day there was a lot of people down there, and I don't know where it was sold or not.
And what year was it built?
About 14. The Maldens lived there. Did you ever know Frances Peacock?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where she was raised.
Oh.
All those duplexes are built around that Canette house, and that house built in 1840. I understand chickens are running around up there.
Now, is that the house that Jack called the Jeb Galt house?
A Galt built. There were two brothers that lived there, Walt and Ott. Do you remember Ott? Canette that sang bass in our choir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then there was Sally or Sarah and Alma. There were two brothers and two sisters that lived there after their parents. And so Miss Sally was the last one that died. And Miss Canette was a McClure. And I can remember when Coppermine Hill didn't have a house on it except the Elrod house.
Which one was the Elrod house?
The one that's catty-cornered. And he was foreman of the mines. It's still there. As you go up the hill from here, it'd be on the right. And it sits kind of catty-corner. And that was the only house up there. And the Elrod family lived there.
Where's the mine?
It was under the road. You see, the road used to go around. At the bottom of the hill, you know, Old Marietta Road, it used to go on around and come up around there, up there around where J.D. Moore lived. It went around that way. You didn't go up that way. In fact, the main road, Granddaddy gave this land here for the Marietta Road. They didn't even come up that little hill there back then. They'd come around this way. Probably the late 30s or early 40s before they started building. But I can remember as a child that there were no houses up there except that one house. I don't know who built the first house, but you know the Martins lived there, the Cokers, Henry Cagle. And somebody gave me a deed-like thing that's called it the Copper Mine Subdivision. But it was not built because people just built their own houses up there. It never was a subdivision to my knowledge. But it was around the middle 30s or something like that. I was probably 7 years old, but I still remember it.
So the copper mines were on the right side of the road or the left?
No, the copper mine was under the main road.
Under that road, under where the road is now.
Yeah, where the road is now. And you see, you went around, you know where, like I said, Old Marietta Road, you didn't go up that way. You had to go around Old Marietta Road.
Well, there's still part of Old Marietta Road up there.
But the interstate's blocked.
Right.
At one end there, you can't go on through. Yeah. But there's some houses. You know, Lee Burks lived out there. And there was another Malden family. You remember Ruth Hamby?
Yeah.
Okay, her family lived out that road. And that store down yonder, it's still standing, was the John Page store.
Page Grocery. Did y'all walk in there and get food?
Yeah, that's where we bought most of our food from there. Well, we didn't have any supermarkets.
No.
Back then.
No.
Let's see, Junior Green. Did you ever know Thad?
Yeah.
That'd be his daddy. Had a lumber thing right around the curve there, and he built that house that's right around the curve.
Now, what about that house that's below the Connett house? It's been there a long time.
That was the Frank Brown house. Now, do you know Wayne Brown that's a pharmacist?
Yeah.
That'd be his grandfolks
Okay.
on that house. Okay. He had an Aunt Elizabeth that married Guy Darnell.
Yeah.
Okay. And another one, Sue, that married Harold Booth from Woodstock.
Yeah.
And then there was Austin and Ralph.
Any idea what year that house was built?
No, I don't. But Wayne, is Wayne still over there at the drugstore?
I don't know where Wayne is. He was at Northside, but I don't know if he's still
I don't know if he's still over there. I don't know. But it's been there ever since I've known. And there's a house down there, the last house on the right down that way, a Castile family lived there. I don't know whatever happened to them. That would have been right across from the grocery store. And there's a road between that house and some other houses that went up to where the Reed house. You remember Doris Reed Frazier? Doris Frazier?
I remember Doris Frazier.
Well, she was Reed.
Okay.
And that's where, and that house was about that old. And the Buren Vigils lived out there in one of those houses. Randall and them grew up. They were about 13, 14 years old, I guess Randall and Wayne were when they lived out there. And then Maisie Harbin lived out that way too.
Okay.
Johnson, you know.
Yeah,
Maisie, yeah. Mm-hmm. When she was growing up. And did I tell you about what's happened to all this property?
No.
Okay. I had been talking to Steve Green. I didn't know where they had gone ahead and rezoned that over there. And he said, well, ma'am, that whole area's been rezoned in 2014. He said, even your property has. And I said, well, I haven't seen any yellow signs out. You know, they usually put them.
Yeah.
And he said, well, there was so many that the city couldn't afford it, so we put it in the legal section of the paper. And I said, who in the world looks in the legal section to see if their property is going to be rezoned? So this place is rezoned that if it could be torn down and put duplexes.
What do you know about Southside Cemetery? How did that come to be? Do you know?
About the first baby that died over here, the 2-year-old daughter of one of the Gaults was buried there, and that would have probably been in the 1800s. They built a house around right before 1900 on Scott Mill Road, and that's where the Gaults were living, and that would have been close right to Southside Cemetery. And they might I don't know where they started that or not, but their 2-year-old daughter was the first one that was buried there.
Okay.
Somebody tell me I've got something wrong with my computer. I don't even have a computer.